Alright, so in this video, guys, I wanted to take a look at some of the items that were recovered from the Twin Towers. I did a video maybe about a month and a half ago on the actual towers themselves, the tridents that got recovered, the sphere in the center of the plaza, and kind of just some of the actual parts of the buildings. These are more just individual pieces from the Twin Towers they were able to cover during the cleanup of Ground Zero. And a lot of these things have crazy stories behind them. Like, take, for example, this little signage. This is a floor marker that signals the 102nd floor stairwell C. It's just crazy to think about something like this, the 102nd floor, so above the impact zone. Like, imagine strapping a camera to this and just what happened to this thing. The fact that it survived that far of a drop is pretty crazy. This is a little window wiper thing, and it is interesting because I have heard people talk about the hypothetical, could you potentially get on one of the, little window washer things and try and go to the bottom? It really was impossible considering those things were situated at the top of the towers. The machine was not on, and there was no way to get to them, considering the top of the towers, the way to the roof, the door was locked. And other people have wondered, they've asked me, if you're above the impact zone, let's say you're in the north tower, because technically in the south tower, if you're above the impact zone, you could survive because one of the stairwells was not blocked off from debris. But let's say you're in the north tower, is there any conceivable way where you could survive? I really think it's impossible. I mean, the only way I could see is if you were somehow on the roof and you clung to the antenna. But even then, people were saying it's basically impossible. You would get mangled because of the how fast you would be falling. Even if you were clinging to the antenna, it would be such a drastic drop, and it would really just completely be catastrophic. So you'd be completely screwed. But it's just crazy. Like, where would this have even been inside of the building, and it just randomly survives? I guess because it's so small and compact, and it's like one of those things when you wash windows, you put the little thing on the front. It's like the little squeegee area. This would be a flight log. And I tried looking to see if I could see a date on this, like 9/11, but I couldn't really find a date. It's very hard. This would have been on one of the flights that crashed into one of the towers, maybe flight 11, but it's just pretty chilling to see that survives. That was inside of a plane that crashed into a building and it survived. And I guess now I'll mention the fact that, one of the IDs of the hijackers was found. I'm not going to comment on that in this video, but that's certainly very strange that actually happened. This is just an ambulance. You can see it just puts into perspective just what a catastrophic situation that was. And then this is the fire truck. This is the famous fire truck they have on display, Ladder 3. You can see how mangled the one side is. This is a $2 bill that was found. I would imagine that is in some museum right now. This is such a crazy image. So I actually zoomed in on this and then took a screenshot just because I find the backdrop so very eerie. You can see the tridents with just completely mangled. It's weird, they're actually still together, but they've just got a bunch of debris and random crap raining down from them, just hanging down. And you can look directly through the tridents and it's just black. It's just completely dark. I always thought it was such a chilling image that was taken. Imagine if that was taken on the night. I don't know if that was the night. It was probably like right after, though, based on that. This is another rare photo that I guess I missed when it comes to the window in between the towers being hit and them collapsing. We're all very interested in finding photos from inside the towers within that window after the planes hit but before they collapse. And this is supposedly another one. Now, this is not a very good one because you can't really see inside the building. It's from a window inside the towers, a pretty high up window looking down at the street, and you can kind of see some debris. I'm guessing this would be after the first plane hit, but this is supposedly another one I thought I would include because I did do a video on this a few months ago about that window that everyone is very interested, because it is a morbid thing. You want to see as many photos inside the towers as you can after they got hit but before they collapsed, because it's such a sacred little window. And this would be another one, although it is kind of, it's whatever. You can see there's a bunch of phones, devices that were used in 2001. It really puts into perspective the technology back then and why there wasn't a ton of recordings from inside the interior of the towers. That's a very obvious image right there. That is a plane window. And the plane parts are something that I'm very interested in just because it's so morbid and so eerie. You know, the idea of a massive airplane crashing into a building and parts actually being ejected out of the side of the building or going almost directly through the building. I'm not sure if any actually went through the entire building. I know a lot of the wheels ejected from the side of the building and were actually kind of together. There's a photo of a wheel. Well, this is actually a bunch of keys. This is another thing that just kind of puts into perspective. I mean, the Twin Towers were so massive, so obviously there's going to be a ton of keys, and they're just all completely useless. I mean, you know, you're talking about 110 floors times 220 total floors. How many doors, how many keys, and it's all useless. None of them, it doesn't matter anymore. It's pretty crazy. This is an interesting photo of the antenna. Just the scale of it was massive. It seems like this was like taken probably in 2002. I've never seen this photo before it was actually put on display or anything like that. The antenna was huge. That's just, you know, like 1/8 of it there. That's just kind of the base of it. That's just a visitor pass inside maybe inside one of the lobbies that somehow survived. How does it survive? It's just, I mean, it's just luck. That's basically how. And then that is one of the plane tires. You can see plane tires are just so massive. Look at the scale next to the people right there. Imagine if that thing was actually, imagine if, no, you can't reuse that. That thing was mangled anyways, I believe. It actually the tire itself kind of looks still together. Those tires are pretty crazy. I saw one person on Reddit, they claimed that their friend saw this thing, the tire, ejected from the building and hurtling to the ground. I highly doubt that. There's just no way. There's no way you'd be able to see something like that goes that fast, but the thing literally ejected out of the building, and that's where it landed, I guess. I'm surprised it didn't leave a bigger indent. I wonder if it possibly bounced somewhere and then landed there. Yeah, because it's a wheel, it probably bounced a bunch, and then that's where it ended up stopping there. Another thing, I'm sure a lot of people have seen this. This is kind of like a normie story that pretty much everyone knows. So, part of the landing gear of one of the planes actually ejected so far away it wedged itself in between two buildings in New York City, and they found it a decade later. And that's actually a real story. It is a real story that they always talk about. And imagine if it would have been like a tire or something or a window, but it was just this weird like landing gear and like a bunch of bolts and stuff. And you can see it's right in between there. It is just pretty crazy when it comes to that. But those are just items that I wanted to talk about in terms of what they were able to find on Ground Zero and recover. Again, I did a video talking about the bigger things like the tridents. There were some different models. They were trying to save the tridents and actually put them back up if they were to rebuild the towers completely. Although I don't think that would have looked very good. I can show a few different renderings of what it would look like. It kind of just looks it just looks incomplete. I mean, I like the tridents. I think they should have done a better tribute for them, possibly make the new Freedom Tower have tridents at the base. But either way, it's just kind of interesting to look through some of this stuff, especially the plane wreckage and things like that. It's very morbid. But either way, guys, that is going to do it for this video. Make sure you're following me on X. Link to that's always in the description.